Good morning, everybody. My name is Alan Yokelson. I am the Vice Chair of the California Committee of Bar Examiners. We're here for a specially set meeting today, April 8th, 2025. First order of business is let's call the roll. Devin?
Dr. Bolton,
Here.
Dr. Cow, Alex Chan,
Here.
Kareem Gangora,
Here.
Larry Kaplan, Paul Kramer,
Here.
Esther Lynn, Justice Masiwala,
Here.
Alex Lawrence, Bethany Peak,
Here.
Ashley Silva Guzman,
Here.
Judge Reyna, Alan Yokelson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Devin. We're going to go to public comment first. Before I do that, I have some announcements to make. As outlined in the 2024 Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Guide, members are required to appear visibly on camera during teleconference meetings, except if a member is unable to appear by video due to connectivity challenges. We ask that any members who are present with their cameras off to state their names and the reasons for not being on camera. Additionally, if a member joins the meeting after roll call, they should raise their hand virtually to notify the chair and the public of their presence. If their camera is off, they should provide an explanation. Members should also raise their hands when leaving and returning to the meeting if they will be absent for more than 5 minutes. As noted on the agenda for today's meeting, public comments during the meeting will be limited. Members of the public wishing to comment were encouraged to submit written comments prior to the meeting to ensure that the committee would have had time to consider these comments. The committee has received and read all the public comments. We thank you for that. The chair or committee coordinator, in this case myself, will attempt to call members of the public in order that they appear. To facilitate the hearing, as many members and to allow as many members of the public as possible to speak, I encourage you not to repeat points that were made by the previous speakers. Additionally, we have a limited amount of time for today's meeting, but we'll be returning in 10 days for a full meeting of this committee. As the co-chair of the CBE, I reserve the right to limit each speaker's time to 2 minutes or to close the public comment period after 2 hours, which includes a 10-minute break, or after the first 100 speakers, whichever occurs first. Please note that the staff will have an on-screen countdown timer visible to all attendees during the duration of your public comment. The timer's 2-minute countdown will begin as soon as you start your comment. The on-screen timer will flash during the final 10 seconds. For those of you who are participating via Zoom video, you should have a function for virtually raising your hand. It's a hand icon and should appear at the bottom and center of your screen. If you wish to make a public comment, please click on that. For those of you who are participating by phone, you may virtually raise your hand by pressing *9. That's the star key, then the number 9. The coordinator will call members of the public in the order that they identify by raised hands and will enable the microphones of the speakers. Before we begin public comment, I would like to remind everyone that under the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, public comments must pertain to items that are on the agenda or to be related to matters that are specifically within the jurisdiction of this agency. Specifically, the Committee of Bar Examiners exercises oversight on admissions matters, including the California Bar Exam, the first-year students' bar exam, moral character applications, and law school regulation. The CBE does not have authority over attorney discipline, and there are no attorney discipline matters on the agenda for today. Okay, with all
Thanks,
of that,
Alan. This is Alex. I just want to take this moment to say this is Alex, chair of the committee. I'm unable to turn on my camera because of a medical emergency. I'm actually currently in a hospital, but I hope that as soon as I get released, I'll be able to turn on the camera and rejoin the meeting. But in the meantime, I will stay in the background. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and our wishes are with you. All right. Is there anybody else who needs to be off camera for now. Okay. Devin, are there any members of the public that wish to comment?
Yes, our first comment will be from Katie Moran.
I'm sorry, Devin, have we taken roll?
We did.
Oh, sorry.
We did.
So our first comment, Katie Moran.
Thank you. Ms. Moran?
Good morning to the committee. I'm Katie Moran. I'm an associate professor at the University of San Francisco School of Law. Today, I'm going to talk about the vetting process for the multiple choice questions this July and the delivery method for those questions. So members of this committee have spoken at many recent meetings about the multiple choice question vetting process for the new Kaplan questions. I have serious doubts about whether that process is sufficient. That process was used for the 50 published released questions, 25 in the student guide and 25 in the faculty guide. As you all know, those questions had to be substantially revised on February 6th. And the reason they were successfully revised is not because of your vetting process. It's because of the feedback the committee received from the public, pointing to clear areas in the law, issues with question drafting, etc. Since the committee plans to continue with Kaplan's questions, I want to advise that for reviewing those questions for this July's test, to please bring in experts in the 7 subjects tested and experts in the bar prep space at law schools who can help make sure the questions are of the quality, difficulty, and style that examinees practice with. Allow the reviewers to access black letter law, including to look up case holdings. Make sure those reviewers see the revisions and approve of them. Mary Basic's going to talk about the content map, so I want to end by talking about the multiple choice question delivery method. Regardless of how examinees input their answers, whether they're writing letter A into ExamSoft or marking it on a Scantron, I urge that examinees be given paper copies of the exam materials, as has been done for almost every single past bar exam question, and that relates to Nydia Johnson's public comment. Thanks so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Professor. Devin, who is our next speaker?
Our next public comment is from Zach DeFazio Farrell.
Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, members of the committee. I stand before you to voice concern following catastrophic failures in February 2025. Bar exam, thousands of applicants experienced system crashes, lost written responses, and unequal conditions that have not only eroded trust in this process, but also caused severe financial and emotional strain. The reliance on flawed psychometric adjustments fails to address the profound disruption in the board. It simply cannot replace a fair, reliable assessment. We urge you to adopt a provisional licensure alternative that removes the burden of a flawed exam requirement. This model, based on supervised practice, has been successfully implemented elsewhere and better reflects the real-world practice of law. Additionally, we call on you to recommend that the Supreme Court reconsider the portfolio bar exam and to grant licensure to qualified out-of-state attorneys. It is time for a licensing process that upholds fairness, transparency, and true competency in our profession. Thank you all very much, and our deepest regards to Committee Member Chan, who I hope, or we hope, makes a speedy and full recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Devin.
Our next public comment is from Ray Hayden.
Mr. Hayden. Go ahead, Mr. Hayden.
Thank you very much. The portfolio bar exam being discussed, I go to most of the meetings. You probably remember me from others. But the fact of the matter is the portfolio bar exam has a high overhead of expense and aggravation, frustration, and irritation for the CBE and others at Cal Bar. So I agree with everybody in the previous discussions from y'all that that's not going to really work financially and fiscally and responsibly. However, there is something that Cal Supreme Court did put in place. They invented it, they created it, they did it, and there were 2 phases of it, and it's a PLL program. The provisionally licensed lawyer program, there were 2 pathways. One was directly to admissions because people hit the 1390 previously. So it's just to make sure they go through the program and bingo, bango, no exam, and they're back in because they've already taken an exam. The PLL program for remedy for the February 2025 situation. It's all in your purview to do it, but to do a PLL program with no exam required at the end, and most of us had already taken the exam numerous times, but that would be a better assessment of the capacity for people to be successful as attorneys. It's already working because the program's been going on for a number of years now. So Cal Springport should have an easier time proving that. The suggestion that I make to Cal Bar is actually for what I call now the pathway to admission, and it is an 8 to 12 week program. You already have all the material that's needed to require this to make this happen. And quickly, the people who make the multiple choice questions involved in the program, I said, are the subject matter experts that you already have access to, and there would be a very low cost to create that. All right, not enough time to go on, so thank you very much and have a great meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. Devin, who is our next speaker?
Next public comment is from Benjamin Cohn.
Mr. Cohen, you have the floor.
Hello. I wanted to make a few points. The first point is that at the Board of Trustees meeting, the sales representative for ILG Technologies did mention that they had submitted a bid that was quite a bit more competitive than ExamSoft, and the fact that they're willing to go cheaper than ExamSoft really begs the question of why ExamSoft is being selected as the vendor for July 2025. I know that some of you have been on the committee longer than others, but you may remember that in July 2021, there was a pretty significant scale, not as significant as February 2025, but the closest that had been seen of tech disruptions to the exam of the kind you don't want to see each exam cycle from ExamSoft. And some of the applicants I know who tested in person, not just those who were doing the remote exam that cycle, had been affected by crashes both that exam cycle and subsequent exam cycles that were catastrophic on ExamSoft. They're the second least reliable vendor after Measure Learning and should not be used. Xtegrity or ILG should be used instead for July 2025. And the board recommendation was subject to CBE approval on the ExamSoft contract. You should not approve it. The second point that I wanted to make was that nothing about in order to make the standard conditions of the July 2025 exam in person precludes, and the NCB is no longer around to even purportedly require you to refuse the individual's consideration of testing accommodations for remote testing based on disability-based reasons. The third thing that I wanted to request was that the remedy for those who were denied equal access to the bar exam experiment because of their disability accommodation timelines it should be agendized for the regular meeting coming up on April 18, so that you can discuss the remedy, because I understand you are discussing how many points to award based on that experiment at that meeting, and this should be part of that discussion. There were a large set of testing accommodations applicants who were denied the opportunity to fairly participate or participate at all due to their disability on that experiment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Devin?
Next public comment is from Nadine Razard.
Ms. Razard?
I think I'm having problems. Can you hear me?
We can
hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nadine Mazard. I'm a licensed attorney in New York for 24 years, Massachusetts 22 years, Connecticut 22 years, and seeking admittance to the California bar. On the April 2nd, 2025, the Board of Trustees finally acknowledged that there are several subgroups. And so my focus today is targeted for remedies for attorney applicants. I have written in and requested that Remedy 1, February 2025 attorney applicant should be admitted on motion by the California Supreme Court as a one-time exception with a legislative support, or in the alternative, Remedy 2, February 2025, attorney applicants should be admitted via legislation change and or one-time exception via reciprocity, or in the alternative, February 2025, applicants and future attorney applicants should be admitted via the legislation change via reciprocity. I do understand that the Blue Hills Commission had also suggested reciprocity. The Supreme Court had basically stated that they were in agreement of this because of the fact that it was a statutory base, but this is a time when we're looking at remedies that an exception can be made. And I understand that the Board of Examiners is providing recommendations to the liaison, and also the California Supreme Court is asking for remedies. The other thing is we haven't even talked about the fact that refund of fees of taking this bar. We paid a computer fee. And at minimum, we all should be receiving some sort of financial a remedy for what we did, because that to make it a fair and equitable, and also a legal remedy. We paid attorney examination fees. We paid computer fees, and again, this particular process should not be something that should be repeated to anyone. And in addition, there should be something that overall we should have a minimum of points added to all of our scores.
Thank you. Devin?
The next public comment is from Mary Basic.
Ms. Basic?
Hi there, good morning. I am the Assistant Dean of Academic Skills at UC Irvine, and I wanted to talk to you about the content of your multiple choice questions. And the question I have is, how is testing applicants on rules that they did not know were eligible for testing help us to establish their minimum competency to practice law? The 50 release Kaplan questions and that California multiple choice content map unilaterally added approximately 55 rules sometime in February for the February bar exam and for the upcoming, I presume, July bar exam. That did not provide sufficient notice under Business and Professions Code, because it didn't give law schools opportunity to put those rules into their curriculum, or for the bar prep companies to ensure that the applicants knew those rules so they were well prepared for the test. There weren't sufficient practice materials. Even though there were already 3,000 plus rules eligible for testing, I want to point out to you that approximately 20% of Kaplan's release questions were centered on these new and previously untested rules of law. So I want to ask, was that intentional? Should the applicants then put more importance on these new areas of law that there are not sufficient testing materials for? If we're looking at proportions, it appears they are more important than the other 3,000 rules that we have already been using. So I know everybody wants a fair and equitable bar exam. I would like to direct you to the public comment I wrote with Katie Moran, where we analyzed the Kaplan questions and this added testing area. I am happy to answer any questions that the committee might have about this, but I really implore you to look into these Kaplan questions to ensure they are testing what you want them to be testing, and that they are good, fair questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Devin?
Our next public comment is from Nydia Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, you have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning. My name is Nydia Johnson, and I am the Associate Dean for Academic Success and Bar Prep at Southwestern Law School. I am making this statement in collaboration with my Southwestern colleagues and other faculty throughout California, which include Katie Moran of the University of San Francisco, Mary Basic of UCI, Jennifer Dean and Tania Shaw of Western State, April Vincent of the Colleges of Law, Michael Brooks of the University of San Diego, Kathleen Ballas of Cal Western, and Ann Camacho of Pepperdine. We are disappointed that the CBE intends to recommend multiple choice questions be given electronically. In light of the recent exam administration issues and the resulting loss of bar taker confidence, the State Bar should take deliberate steps to reestablish trust. Returning to paper-based multiple choice questions and Scantron forms for the July 2025 California bar exam is an important step in that direction. While the ExamSoft platform has been a longtime partner and may offer efficiencies in digital delivery, a paper-based MCQ format restores confidence through familiarity and control. Scantrons were used reliably for decades. Bar takers will feel more in control if they can physically mark up questions and review their answers without concerns about software glitches, particularly on the heels of the February 2025 exam administration. Paper MCQs and Scantrons eliminate the possibility of software crashes or tool functionality failures, issues that could be distracting for test takers and devastating to the state bar at this critical time. Although surveys indicate that some applicants appreciated digital functionality, bar takers' primary concern is reliability, not convenience. At this pivotal moment, the goal should not be to optimize for efficiency or new technology adoption, but rather to prioritize stability, predictability, and examinee confidence. A paper-based MCQ is a time-tested way to ensure applicants can focus on demonstrating their knowledge without reliance on the availability of tools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Devin?
Our next public comment is from Joseph Thigo.
Sir, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members. My name is Joseph Figo, and I'm the president of ILG Exam 360, a software development company that provides software for use at the bar exam in 19 states across the U.S. Prior to becoming president of ILG Exam 360, I was the executive director at the Missouri Board of Law Examiners, and prior to that, the director of administration at the Florida Board of Bar Examiners. I say this only to emphasize that I am intimately familiar with the challenges of administering the bar exam, and as president of ILG Exam 360, I ensure that we as a company minimize those challenges to our 19 bar admission clients. I am calling today regarding agenda item 2.1, specifically the staff recommendation to use ExamSoft for the July 2025 bar exam. ILG Exam 360 was asked by the State Bar of California staff to provide pricing for the 2025 bar exam. According to agenda item 2.1, ILG's bid would result in approximately a $300,000 savings when compared to ExamSoft's listed pricing. If one of the reasons the board agreed to move forward with the remote exam was due to budgetary constraints, it seems counterintuitive to then contract with the vendor with the higher costs when all other variables are equal. Additionally, although agenda item 2.1 makes the recommendation to use ExamSoft for the July 2025 bar exam, there is no mention of the 2026 bar exam. And I understand that that's most likely because the Board of Trustees and the CBE have not made a decision on the format of the 2026 exams. However, if the decision is made to hold in-person exams in 2026, ILG Exam 360 would like to be considered for those exams, especially considering the cost savings that we would be able to provide while also providing our best-in-class customer service. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Devin?
We do not have any additional public comments.
Okay, thank you. With that, let's move forward. One moment here. We'll go forward with the chair's report. Audrey?
I don't think you and Alex have anything to report at this time if you want to go to the business item.
All right, I do not. And would that be 1.1?
2.1.
2.1, excuse me. Yes, let's go forward with that. And no, go ahead.
All right, Amy is going to start.
Good morning. Good morning, committee members. We have a PowerPoint that we're going to be, that Audrey will be sharing. And this is related to the upcoming July 2025 California bar exam. So staff plan to administer the July 2025 California bar exam as we have traditionally, specifically at test sites procured by the State Bar in Southern and Northern California. We are attempting to secure testing space for 10,000 applicants. And we anticipate that of those 10,000, 11% will require testing accommodations based on recent administrations. So we're talking about approximately 1,100 testing accommodation testing spaces. Next slide, please. Here are the test sites. The test sites listed here have been approved by the Board of Trustees, contingent on the Committee of Bar Examiners authorization to contract with these sites. All of the locations noted here are subject to change, contingent on the contracting. The majority of these sites here that have been placed on hold were used during the July 2024 California bar exam. The total number of seats that these sites provide right now are roughly 9,200 standard test site seats and 1,000 seats for testing accommodations. All of these locations, aside from the Anaheim Convention Center, have been accessible to applicants when they are registering for the California bar exam, meaning that when they register, these sites are available to them with the exception of Anaheim. To date, we've received 6,025 bar exam applications for July. So space is filling up quickly, especially in Southern California, and it has to do with the fact that Anaheim Convention Center is still not accessible. We plan to make that space available contingent on the committee's approval as early as possible. So it's possible that Anaheim could open up for applicants. The remaining space that we still seek is space for testing accommodations in Los Angeles and Ontario area. So staff are trying to secure space there to provide testing accommodations for sites that we're not going to be using as we did in July. And again, that's in Ontario and around. We're not using the Los Angeles State Bar office. Next slide, please. So at in-person examinations, as you may be aware, applicants receive the essays and performance test in hard copy, and they provide the responses in software on their own laptops. The process does not require any software, any internet. It's actually, they conduct a mock exam prior to coming in, which uploads the software into their laptops. And so this, unlike live and remote proctoring, the software does not require active and consistent internet, reduces the potential for technical glitches. Staff have recommended ExamSoft because it's a platform that we've been using since 2002. And it has facilitated the ability for applicants to compose their written answers. The answers are uploaded when applicants are close to in contact with internet, and they're automatically submitted to the State Bar for grading. Also, many applicants are familiar with this software. It's used in many California law schools for exam taking. So we are recommending to use ExamSoft as a platform to deliver the multiple choice questions as well. This was something that was conducted during the COVID exams, so during the pandemic in 2020 and also in 2021. We believe that it'll reduce the time needed to collect and distribute material, errors, potential damage. Without using the exam platform, applicants would use a Scantron form and an exam booklet. And sometimes these forms get damaged with erasing, with people filling in too hard into the paper. So that is part of what compels us to recommend this. Applicants, like I said, have used it in the past. And also less hard copy material would be required, which would help with exam security. Nothing, we wouldn't lose material. Not that it happens, but sometimes books get separated from their Scantron, so it would just facilitate a smooth administration. We also have some feedback. Can we go to the next slide, please? About you heard some of this today, but about the multiple choice questions appearing in the ExamSoft platform. So we conduct a post-exam survey after every bar exam. And these are surveys conducted in 2021 and then leading up to 2024, up to the hybrid exam. We've asked applicants about their preference between receiving the multiple choice questions on hard copy or on the computer. And up to 64% of respondents in post-exam surveys report preferring answering the questions on their computer rather than the hard copy paper material. Yesterday, we had a state bar day where we invited applicants or any law school students to join a panel that talked about all of the different services and about the exam itself, about the upcoming exam and the format, to a session. About over 1,400 students attended. It was held yesterday, and a poll was conducted. In that poll, we asked about the preference between using a Scantron sheet and completing the multiple choice questions online. And the results were as follows: 53% of applicants report preferring to complete the multiple choice by Scantron, and 47% prefer to complete them online. So the next slide, please. So our recommendation is for the testing space here, that we have testing space for nearly all applicants right now, with the exception of the two more testing accommodation spaces in Southern California. We're also recommending to deliver the 200 multiple choice questions through the platform. And then also fundamentally that the staff authorize the use of testing facilities in the locations identified in the report. And again, the software using ExamSoft for the administration of July 2025. Are there any questions?
Yes, Amy, I'll start off.
Sure.
I'm confused. The applicant comes in, the exam itself, both essays, performance, and multiple choice, they'll be given a paper copy of the questions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But in terms of answering or taking the exam, that will be computer-based. Is that, they'll answer it on their computer? Is that correct?
They answer it on their, that's correct.
Okay. And what happens if somebody's computer goes down or whatnot? What happens then?
So what happens is that applicants will be provided paper, so that if your laptop crashes, you have the ability to finish testing via paper, handwriting.
But if I may just clarify, Alan,
Yes.
so what we're describing with regard to the essay and performance test, the way that we have done it for years when we were in person. So you have hard copy materials of the questions, you have hard copy physical scratch paper, and then you type your answers into the into ExamSoft. Basically, right, you're typing your answer into the document. Because the way you phrased the question was asking about multiple choice, that's why I wanted to just take a step back to be crystal clear about that. There is a resolution asking for CBE's direction on whether we provide hard copies for the multiple choice questions and have applicants fill in their answers by bubbling in a Scantron, which is the way it has been done in past exams, or the staff recommendation that instead of doing it that way, you load the multiple choice questions into the system so they don't have hard copies of the questions. they answer the questions online, we would still provide them with scratch paper so they can map out answers to the questions. So for the essays and the performance test, it's the way we have historically done this when we have not been remote. For the multiple choice, we are asking the CBE to provide a direction on how you would like to have us administer it.
Why would we not give them a hard copy of the multiple choice questions?
They would have all the questions in the software. It would be duplicative to have a hard copy and to have all the questions in the software. They wouldn't be following along in a booklet if they had the questions right in front of them on the screen.
But I think if I understood what some of the commentators were saying is that students prefer having a hard copy of the questions. Maybe I misunderstood that.
I think if they have the scratch paper and the questions in the software, I imagine they wouldn't also be following along in the booklet. And I think one of the things with the software is that you can skip one and go back and flag it and do different things. And besides with the Scantron, you'd have to like circle it, skip a line. Like I think there wouldn't be, well, we can discuss it, but I don't know where someone would be looking at the software with the question and following along in the booklet at the same time. That to me seems duplicative, but we can talk through why someone would have that use case.
But the commenters, we do have commenters absolutely who are saying that it is their strong belief that applicants would prefer to have hard copies, to not do it online, to just have hard copies and the Scantrons. Amy shared with you some of our prior survey data, which suggested higher than 50% people who would prefer to have it loaded in the system, and as well as the data from yesterday, which was much closer to 50%, slightly higher actually preferred getting the hard copies handed out to them and having Scantron. It was a very low response rate, obviously 144, I believe, people overall. But those are the different data points for the committee to consider.
I'm just going to jump in, Donna, because Louisa pinged me during this to say we now have 216 respondents to that survey from yesterday, and it's now exactly 50-50, the poll. So,
okay, thank you. Ashley, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, do we have any analysis or information about how this affects disabled test takers? Just because I know that having a loaded multiple choice on a computer can sometimes be pretty difficult for learning disabilities. Have we looked into that, how that disproportionately affects disabled applicants, or is it not something that we're too concerned about in the longer run because people can get accommodations? How would that work?
So a couple of things about the software. So the multiple choice questions in the system have the capacity to also, we did mention this, strike through, so that as people are going through, they could strike through or highlight in ExamSoft. So during the pandemic, when we had applicants that were with accommodations, we had people that if you got a hard copy material, you had the hard copy version of the multiple choice questions. We also had people that were testing in person and got the multiple choice questions electronically. We had people who wanted to switch from testing accommodation applicants from paper to remote because they were able to see the questions online. It was easier to navigate through the process, also to increase the font size. So there are some contingent on the type of disability that somebody has. Some people prefer the electronic version, but.
And just to add on to that from the accommodations team, another benefit from our remote pandemic experience is that, and with the accommodations, the preference overall was not to bubble in the Scantron, depending again on the accommodation.
Yeah, and I think we have that issue where you get turned around and then you accidentally bubble and then you thought you were going to go back and now you have to erase everything. So that makes sense. But that is something that we could accommodate if a student preferred to have that because of their disability, they needed it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Perfect.
And to that point, Ashley, when we went live with the exam application, we noted that this decision was pending, so that if applicants thought that they might need a testing accommodation specifically to ensure that they were able to get hard copies of the question, they knew to ask about that. So we wanted to be transparent that this was a decision that was pending, and so they needed to think about that as part of their application process.
And this is not something that we can just person by person make that decision in advance. Like that would be overburdensome, or is there? I can see that might be extremely difficult, but but I was just making sure that I'm asking all those questions.
Yes, fair to ask all the questions, absolutely. It would be, I'm never going to say impossible, but it would be incredibly difficult to administer that way.
Okay.
And it wouldn't have some of the cost savings of reducing, right? Because we're talking about 4 booklets of 50 questions each for 10,000 applicants, right? Just the printing, the time it takes to hand out the questions and the Scantrons, to collect the questions and the Scantrons, the risk of, as Amy talked about, sort of the problems with your filling out of the Scantron, the risk of losing a Scantron, having it get misplaced. That's why staff are are recommending the loading them in the system. Obviously, again, you heard from some in the public that they don't think that's a good idea, and so that's why we wanted to make sure that the committee was really talking through this and made the decision.
What happens if you check the wrong box on the system? Can you uncheck it?
Yes.
Before time runs out, you can, yes.
Yeah, of course. Paul, you had a question?
Several. So Donna, back to your recent statement that the website tells people that if they feel they need paper materials, that they should apply for accommodation. Does it literally say that, or does it simply say that we're thinking about going one way or another, and the need for them to request an accommodation if they feel it is implied, simply implied rather than expressly stated?
I don't recall. I don't recall that. I know, again, that we specifically noted that this was a pending decision. I don't know that we specifically said, so if you need a testing accommodation, you should think about. I just don't recall how that's posted. I get the sense from the way you're looking at the screen, Paul, that you are looking at the website and have the answer to that question.
No, I'm looking at the computer monitor or the television on the wall with a low-mounted camera, and yeah, I don't know, but I just want to be precise here, because so often when I look into those sort of things, it turns out it wasn't really exactly as clear as we think. And it's a habit we need to remember when we're doing our work, that we should go back and check things once in a while to make sure it really says what we are remembering it says. Because I've run into instances where that was not the case. But anyway, so when we gave the test during the pandemic, did we use ExamSoft to do the multiple choice questions, or was there some other vendor that the national conference had that they used?
The national conference's recommendation was ExamSoft for the jurisdiction. We all use ExamSoft.
Okay, and so that's what we did during the pandemic.
That's right.
And give me the briefest of reminders about the problem ExamSoft had in, was it 2021? What was the nature of that? We had to do some scoring adjustments, I believe. It's been referred to in previous presentations as an example of how psychometric adjustment works. So what went wrong back?
So in July of 2021, the ExamSoft had a problem with an update that required that prevented people from advancing in the question. So what applicants experienced was either they were in a question and got blank screens, weren't able to proceed, couldn't continue. And so some people had to get rescheduled to complete the exam. Some people weren't able to get that far, hence the need for this pro rata was the name of the type of grading adjustment that happened at the time. The explanation for how that happened had to do with oh my gosh, I can't recall it at the moment. Hold on. The problems that they had were.
Let's back up for a second. As
Okay.
I recall, or let me phrase it this way. Were the problems related to the fact that there was an internet connection that was required?
Yes, I think it was like the volume of candidates, because remember every jurisdiction that was going to have an exam at that year, those that decided not to postpone had to use the same platform. And experience was not strictly to California. All jurisdictions had the same impact. And it was related to a software update and that affected everybody's connectivity.
So
And
maybe it was pushed out perhaps before it was properly and completely tested.
I believe it's something like that.
Okay, thanks. That's good enough on that.
But it was a connectivity issue, which it would not be an issue using it in the in-person format.
Yeah, there's no internet required for the way that we use ExamSoft in the in-person exams.
Yeah.
There's no internet required while you're taking the test.
That's
However,
right.
you do have to use the internet to download the software prior to starting the test and to upload your answers after you complete the test.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, so some people can still handwrite, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so then if we're forcing them to use a computer to take the multiple choice, are we going to hit them with a computer fee just because it's our preference for the multiple choice, those who decide to handwrite?
If you're handwriting, you don't pay the laptop fee.
Yeah.
Right, but you need it for the second part of the exam, which is the multiple choice.
If you're handwriting the exam, you would get the hard copy and Scantron.
Oh, okay. And you have the bar already has equipment to grade the Scantrons?
Right, we do the same, we've done the same Scantrons for the bar exam, and we used to do it for the first year, so we have Scantrons in our inventory.
Okay, good. One of the security features, I don't think it's a secret to anyone, is that there are several versions of the multiple choice sets in which the questions are arranged differently to prevent Gene, if you want me to shut up and talk about this in closed session, let me know. How are you going to be able to replicate that for software that is preloaded on computers? Are you going to have a seating chart so that that's all worked out in advance, or are we getting rid of that security feature?
An additional security feature that exists for multiple choice in the is the ability to randomize. And so through randomization, we handle that issue related to different forms being developed for the exam.
So there's going to be more than, like, say, I'm just picking a number, 4 different versions of the book. It will be completely randomized. So we don't really have to worry about somebody sitting down next to somebody else with the same order of questions on their computers.
Correct.
And I think, go ahead, Jean.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Paul, I don't think we want to get into the specific of the number of forms or anything that we have, but I think a high level overview, Amy, is appropriate.
I think that answered your question, right, Paul?
Well, no, I think you and Audrey were talking at the same time, so I didn't hear it.
High level, we have the ability, if the questions are in the software, to randomize, which obviously would mean the person sitting next to you wouldn't be working on the same question.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. And why was ILG rejected? Just you, given all that's happened, you want to go with a known quantity, I'm assuming.
Oh, we've been using
Yeah.
ExamSoft for since 2001. And we know for an in-person exam, we've been very successful with the software. And so our concern was to use a new software that hasn't been tested before we go to before going to the July bar exam. So that's fundamentally why we are recommending ExamSoft.
Okay, thank you.
I have a
Other
question.
questions?
This is
Alex?
Yeah, this is Alex, the chair. Thank you, Amy. I think from my perspective, I don't think it's acceptable that the committee wasn't given a chance to vet ExamSoft or review bids from other vendors before ExamSoft was selected. Now, I understand that we used ExamSoft before, and so we are very familiar with them. But ultimately, the committee is responsible for safeguarding the integrity and the fairness of the exam process, and that necessarily includes the tools that we use to deliver it. And so going forward, I'm hoping that the staff will continue to work with us as part of that decision-making process. For at least for the next administration, that is for the February 2026. We certainly need to revisit this vendor choice to ensure that other platforms are considered and compared and obviously properly evaluated. At the end of the day, again, my personal opinion is transparency and due diligence are vital to the success of this committee. So Amy, if you can, for the next round, just keep us posted when the time comes to select the vendor again, that we don't go with ExamSoft by default, because I think it is, again, very important for us to study and compare between ExamSoft and other vendors to ensure that ExamSoft is still going to be the most suitable choice. Again, right now, given the time constraint, obviously it would be very difficult to go with a different vendor. But again, for the next selection, please keep us posted.
Okay, will do. I think we're all on the same page.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Amy, I think you touched on this, but I think I missed it. What about testing accommodation sites, going back to the geographical area?
Sure.
What do we have lined up?
I don't know if you want to pull, do you mind pulling that up, Audrey? That I think it's slide 3.
I got it. One sec.
Thank you. So we are going back to sites. We have sites in 3 different areas. So in Sacramento, we're at the Hilton Sacramento Arden West. In the Bay Area, we're at Golden Gate University and Oakland Convention Center. In Los Angeles, Hotel Farah in Anaheim, and at the Pasadena Convention Center. In San Diego, we'll be at the Sheraton Mission Valley San Diego Hotel. But as I mentioned, all of these locations only amount to about 9,200 seats, and we seek more than that. One of the sites that is missing here, Los Angeles, the State Bar Office provided about 125 seats. So we're looking to replace that. And we also need more space around the Ontario, around Ontario. And so that's another, we had testing accommodation space in Ontario, but unfortunately that's not available to us this year. So those are the 2 test sites that we're trying to testing areas that we're trying to find space for.
So we're up to about 9,000 people for testing accommodations, 9,000 applicants.
Amy meant standard seats.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
standard.
I misheard that.
Sorry about that.
No, that's what she meant.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any further questions or discussion? All right, we have some resolutions pending. I'm thinking of Audrey taking these in reverse order. I think geographical area might be quicker to discuss. So unless there's any objection, do I have a motion to approve the geographic areas listed in the staff report?
Do you want to put it up or you want me to, Devin?
I can put it up.
One second, Alan.
Thank you. Okay, so the proposal from staff is that the Committee of Bar Examiners approves the selection of the geographic areas listed in the staff report for the in-person administration of the July 2025 bar exam. Is there a motion?
So moved, James Bolton.
Moved by Dr. Bolton. Is there a second?
This is Justice Masiwala. I second.
Thank you, Justice Masiwala. Is there any further discussion on this?
If I may just
See-
clarify, part of the reason that the resolution is worded that way is so that staff does have the flexibility to go find those additional sites within those same geographic areas that Amy mentioned that we are looking for. Ultimately, depending on the value of any contract, we would have to take the contract back to the Board of Trustees, but we would not come back to this committee with those additional sites so long as they're in the geographic areas.
All right. Thank you for the clarification. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Devin, would you call the roll, please?
Actually, can I just ask one question?
Yes, go ahead, Ashley.
Sorry, I couldn't find my hand. I know historically we haven't really done, or at least not as far as I remember, have done anything in like the Central Valley or anything. Have we considered that? Is it just we don't have many test takers who are coming from the area? I was just wondering about that because otherwise I agree with all these areas. I just want to check.
Amy, Donna?
Yes. So more recently, we looked at, for example, for the February bar exam, those people that applicants who wanted to test in person, we did an analysis of where applicants would test around the Central Valley when we were looking for testing space, and applicants really cluster around the Los Angeles and Northern California areas. They cluster basically around where most law schools are situated. And so what we found is we got space in Bakersfield, Fresno. I can't recall the third one. We didn't have that many candidates that ended up signing up for those in-person test sites. So we tried it in February, but it is something that we can continue to monitor if we proceed with in-person examinations.
That would be good. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I think maybe you want to keep surveying the applicants, seeing their preferences for geographical locations.
Yeah, and I think that
Oh,
makes sense for the
Donna.
future. I think that makes a lot of sense, certainly for the future, as we sort of came to the decision to have the July exam in person at a late date, and are really focused on ensuring that we are able to deliver a smooth administration of this exam. We felt it really important to focus on sites that we had experience with, that we knew would be good partners in putting on a bar exam. And so we didn't feel like this was the opportunity to start exploring new sites for July, but it's certainly something that we're happy to look at in the future.
Thank you. All right, is anything further from anybody? Devin, would you call the roll on the resolution, please?
Dr. Bolton,
Yes.
Dr. Cow, not present. Kareem Gangora,
Yes.
Larry Kaplan, not present. Paul Kramer,
Yes.
Alex Lawrence, not present. Esther Lynn, not present. Justice Masiwala,
Yes.
Bethany Peak,
Yes.
Ashley Silva Guzman,
Yes.
Judge Reyna, not present. Vince Reyes, not present. Alan Yokelson,
Yes.
Alex Chan,
Yes.
with 8 yeses and 0 nos, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next order of business, let's go with the first resolution. If we can put it up there.
The first part just about using ExamSoft as
ExamSoft,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. You want to call a vote on that separately as well, Alan?
I do,
Okay.
except I can't see it on the board. Give me a second here. Resolved that the Committee of Bar Examiners approves the use of ExamSoft as a software provider for the July 2025 bar exam. Do I hear a motion? Anybody?
Paul,
Paul, you're moving?
yes.
All right, is there a second?
This is
I'll sec-
Justice Masuala. I'll second that. I just want to note that I share the chair's concern about not really being able to discuss this a lot ahead of time. And we look forward to discussing it more as time goes on and selecting a vendor appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. So Justice Masiwala has seconded. Now for discussion. I think we all echo those comments from both the chair and from Justice Masiwala. Is there any further discussion?
Kareem has his hand up.
Okay, Kareem?
Yes, thank you, Alan. I appreciate you chairing the meeting. I have similar concerns, and so I can't support this motion as it stands. I've been on this committee since 2018, and I feel like we're always in a rush. So I just can't support it. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you.
Ashley's hand is raised as well.
Ashley?
Yeah, question about this. So say this doesn't pass, this aspect of the resolution. What is that next step for, I guess it's the Board of Trustees, it kicks back up. What is our role in then assessing what ExamSoft's role or lack of a role is in administering the test? And do we have enough time to make a decision that we're not going to approve this, re-review, have more information, all in advance of a July examination?
So I think there's several questions there.
Yeah, sorry, it's a lot.
But the central question is there time to seek out another vendor? So I'll direct that to staff.
Yeah, and I think more specifically, just to have more information about the vendors that we do have. I think that there's no distinct dislike for ExamSoft. I took my exam on ExamSoft. I think it's more so that we just aren't fully aware of what our options are and were. And it sounds like this other company, I just did some just general looking. It looks like they've administered other bars. It might be something to consider.
They have. So ILG is the other vendor that that we were in communication with. They have been the exam driver for 19 different jurisdictions, much smaller than California, obviously, but and so like I mentioned earlier, I think our concern was the idea of using new software so close to the exam. Even if we tested the exam, I think the what we always have to keep in mind for California is volume testing. We have such a huge population, especially for the July bar exam, where we're anticipating 10,000 applicants. We're already at over 6,000 applicants, and we haven't even released results so that people, immediate repeaters that will register. We are anticipating 10,000. So the concern here again was really about venturing with new software or that really will not be able to volume test before July, and so we were taking a safer route. Because again, we've used ExamSoft even after that July 2021 exam, and it's been a successful process because of this. It's not depending on this internet connectivity. Neither is ILG, but again, we have not used ILG even in a small setting for a smaller pool of applicants at all. So that we struggle with not having vetted that before bringing it to the committee.
I think it's a sense of the committee that if it's not done on this exam, we need to go forward and the committee needs to be involved in the selection process.
Yeah.
When would that start and how would that look?
So,
I think I'm gonna jump in and maybe you can help me, Donna. Because I agree that, I mean, I appreciate the committee's kind of frustration. I do think our sense has been we need to go at the safest route possible for July because of what happened in February, because of the compressed time frame between February and July. But the reality is, as you heard us discuss at the board level and obviously here as well, it is not really feasible to think that we can continue with this kind of mass congregate in-person test administration going forward in perpetuity. There has to be a change. And the very challenging question is, how could we collectively, you, the committee, staff, the board, feel comfortable making a transition to a new vendor and a new modality after what we experienced in February. So when we say, when is the process going to start? Donna and I have been talking about the need for it to start soon, for there to be dedicated staffing focused on identifying potential options for next year, and for there to be a process developed by the CBE to vet vendors and to see those vendors tested in action, giving other exams. So I think we've got to start it soon. It's got to be a pretty, a comprehensive process that's going to take a number of months to work through. So that would be kind of my answer. And I don't know, Donna, if you have anything to add there.
No, I think you covered it.
I think for the near future, we are going to be doing in-person exams. At least it seems like, you know, none of us can speak for the court, but it seems like that's the sense of the court. So in that process, again, the committee just really needs to be involved in these really important decisions. And I personally agree that given the shortness of the turnaround from February to July and what happened in February, now is not the time to experiment with new vendors that we're not experienced with. But it is something we should really look at in the future. Are there any other comments?
Yeah.
Paul and Ashley.
Paul.
So let's make sure the work plan's on the agenda for our next meeting in 2 weeks or less than 2. And let's add this to that with some deadlines.
Ashley?
Yeah. Do we know whether ExamSoft or I think it's ILG, really bad with letters. Do we know if either of them have the capacity to administer a remote exam? Because if we're saying that this is not something that's sustainable in person, I think having that relationship with a company that actually has some kind of capacity would be helpful. But if neither of them do, then I think that's also something to be considered. Something along the lines of a version that works of what we tried to do in February.
In our recent discussions with both ILG and ExamSoft, we didn't raise the idea of remote proctoring, but we know that they do it, and they have provided, obviously, ExamSoft has provided that service in the past. The issue is the type of proctoring that we want. So we have always sought to do live proctoring. That's what we wanted in this last round, because when we did the proctoring that ExamSoft has offered is record and review, where applicants are recorded, and if any issues show up or violations or anything that would need immediate attention, it's recorded and flagged by a system, and then we have to go back and review that process and evaluate, whether somebody should get a sanction, evaluate whether there are technical issues or whatever the case is, versus live proctoring where issues get addressed almost immediately. And we also get incident reports when you have live proctoring. And so part of the challenge, I think, is that there are few vendors that do this live proctoring the way that we'd like it, in terms of a live proctoring session that flags issues and provides an incident to us. With ILG, like I mentioned, because we're talking about an in-person administration, we did not have that discussion. But you know, we can explore that as for a future exam. That is, does this vendor, do either vendors have the capacity to do a remote proctoring, and also the type? Would it be live, or is it a record and review?
And I think that, like, I think my one other question didn't get answered, but what's the practical effect of us denying this resolution? What does that mean as far as the July administration? Does that mean ExamSoft is out, we go back to the drawing board, or does it mean that the board of trustees kind of just continues and picks someone else?
The Board of Trustees approval of the contract was contingent upon the CBE's approval of the vendor. And so if the CBE does not approve this resolution, then we would need to go back to the drawing board. And we have some significant concerns about timing to make sure that we are able to administer a smooth exam in July.
So also, if we ended up having to seek another vendor, it also has an impact on applicants in terms of how we inform them about, you know, with instructions, how to, you know, what our timing looks like. For example, I mentioned that everybody's required to do a mock exam. In that mock exam is where the software gets downloaded into their system, and also they get familiar with the software itself. Whatever vendor we go with, we're going to have to build that time into the system. So it will have an effect on how much time applicants have to prepare with whatever software we use before the July exam.
Thank you for all of that. I think that's all really helpful information. Obviously, also just want to reiterate my agreement with Kareem. I think that we're being placed into these positions where we have to make snap decisions without much information. And I think that safest choices are not always best choices. So I think we need to have more lead time. And I know we're in like an emergency situation here where we're just trying to get back to baseline. But I just wanted to voice those concerns as well before the vote.
There any other?
And my concern, Ashley, is we find ourselves in this place every time. And so it just feels like if the Board of Trustees sent it to us to be decision makers, they obviously want to have more engagement from us. So obviously the implications are the implications no matter which way we go. So I agree with you. Of course, we're on the same page. It's just, it's getting more frustrating.
I would just add, if the committee does decide to vote this recommendation down, I would ask that you come up with some criteria for vetting and testing a new vendor, and also clarify if you'd like to see a broad solicitation or for us to try ILG, which is obviously you've heard from them. They've also spoken to the board. I think that would be important that we have some kind of very transparent mechanism for assessing their ability to deliver the exam if we, you do in fact decide to go in that direction today.
I think that is a practical matter. I think prudence suggests that we go with ExamSoft. It's proven. We don't want to experiment, and we're certainly to go into a broad-based solicitation like Leah just suggested. I don't think we have the time for that, frankly. So I'm supporting the resolution, but I also want to reiterate what Paul said. This needs to go onto the work plan, and we need to follow up with this, starting it with the next meeting.
Speaking of Paul, his hand is raised.
I would recommend expanding that and adding an additional item where we talk about just why this continues to happen, as Ashley and Kareem have noted, and what we can do to make our meetings more effective, but also expand our bandwidth to be able to consider more issues in depth rather than, 3 o'clock looking at the clock and with one eye on the exit. We need, whether it's more meetings or whatever, maybe that's already on the work plan, but just reviewing our governance and how well it's working. My answer would be needs improvement, but maybe others feel differently.
And I think, going off what Paul was saying, that in combination with what Paul and Leo were saying is maybe that looks like future work on a list of what we're looking for and what things we're considering for vendors. So that way Board of Trustees maybe can make these decisions with more feedback from us without having to take, I mean, obviously this is a bulky process. It can't keep going back and forth time-wise, but if we can put that on the work plan to work on what we're looking for in a vendor, then that sits and stays and we can revisit as a new board as the board changes and grows.
And just to make it clear, the board the Board of Trustees is charged with approving the contract, but it's up to the committee of bar examiners to make the selection. And I assume that's in line with an appropriate contract, but the burden really does fall on us. I digress a little bit, but we used to have 2-day meetings, and to Paul's point, we may have to start considering something like that just to get this kind of work done. All right, are there any other comments? Okay, I can't see if there are hands. Audrey, are there?
Yeah, no, there's no hands.
Okay. So with that in mind, I believe it's been moved and seconded. So, Devin, can you call the roll, please?
Dr. Bolton,
Yes.
Dr. Cow, not present. Kareem Gangora,
No.
Larry Kaplan, not present. Paul Kramer,
Yes.
Alex Lawrence, not present. Esther Lynn, not present. Justice Macy Walla,
Yes.
Bethany Peak,
Yes.
Ashley Silva Guzman,
Yes.
Judge Reyna, not present. Vince Reyes, not present. Alan Yokelson,
Yes.
Alex Chan, Yes. With 7 yeses and 1 no, the motion passes.
Thank you. And then finally, we could put the third resolution up.
It's up. It's the one that starts committee.
Again?
Yeah.
All right. I guess I
Approve
can't
the
see
use
it.
of the exam software for delivery of the multiple choice questions and logging of answers, except for handwriters, and as approved for test takers as part of testing accommodations. So it's that.
All right.
Yeah, it's on the screen.
So this would mean that for the multiple choice portion, both the questions and the answers would be on this applicant's computer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Without a paper copy of the
Unless
questions.
they're a handwriter or they've requested as part of an accommodation, that's correct. But we will be providing scratch paper if there's a need to make notes on certain items.
And it occurs to me that with the randomization that Amy referred to, it would be difficult to provide a hard copy of the question to link up to the specific applicant. Wouldn't that be an additional burden? You'd have to make sure that they're getting the same.
Right. Well, that would require
randomizing.
not randomizing if we had a booklet that was tied to the questions if they were synced.
Okay. Comments? Well, first of all, is there a motion?
Paul makes the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it. This is Bethany.
Bethany will second. Discussion. Is there
Well-
no discussion?
No, I'll just note that I would not want to lose the randomization. So I guess that does effectively force us not to give booklets, printed booklets to people who are taking the multiple choice on their laptops.
How is that going to work though with the essay portion? Oh, never mind. Never mind. Withdraw that.
Different animal.
Different, yeah. All right. Is there any other discussion or comments? All right. Devin, would you call the roll?
Dr. Bolton,
Yes.
Dr. Cow, not present. Cream Bangora, No. Larry Kaplan, not present. Paul Kramer,
Yes.
Alex Lawrence, not present. Esther Lynn, not present. Justice Macy Walla,
Yes.
Bethany Peak,
Yes.
Ashley Silva Guzman,
Yes.
Judge Reyna, not present. Vince Reyes, not present. Alan Yokelson,
Yes.
Alex Chan,
Yes.
with 7 yeses and 1 no, the motion passes.
Thank you. Is there any more business for today? Audrey?
There is not.
All right. With that, thank you very much, everybody. I don't believe we have anything in closed session, correct,
Correct.
Audrey?
Right.
All right. Well, with that, I will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
See everyone on April 18th.
See you on April 18th.